Sorry, it's Romminger.
Rominger.
Rominger. Okay.
Yes.
All right. Awesome.
Doesn't matter.
That sort of does. All right. We want to welcome our guest today, the CEO of Secure Risk, Meredith Romminger, and we're pumped to have you on the podcast. Meredith, what's going on?
Hello, how are you?
I'm good. I'm good. I want to start by getting into the background, how you ended up in the spot you are today and kind of your prowess in the insurance industry. Can you take me through a quick journey, maybe like 2 to 5 minutes on just kind of like where you started and how you ended up in the position you are of COO of Secure Risk today?
Sure. I always like to tell people about, I'm in Georgia, and the University of Georgia has a very prestigious risk management department. Now, when I was in college, I don't know that it was prestigious. I know that I knew nothing about what I wanted to major in, and when we went to each, I guess it was some kind of fair where you went and you saw all the majors in the business school, and when they touted risk management, they had the risk managers from the Hawks and WWE, the wrestling group, and the Braves. And me and my friends were like, oh, we're definitely doing risk management insurance because we're going to get to go to Braves and Hawks games. And that's like, it's going to be so fun. And my dad was an insurance defense attorney for his whole career. And when I told him I was major in risk management insurance, he said, that is so boring. And are you kidding me? So I did that in school, had no clue what that really meant, really didn't understand what the agent part of insurance was about, really only kind of were courted by insurance carriers, kind of a non-standard carriers like people you hear about when you get DUIs. Those were the type of people that showed up at our career fairs. So really didn't understand the business, graduated, and there was a insurance company here, or insurance agency here in Savannah, Georgia, where I live and where I'm from, that was a mid-sized regional firm called Palmer and Kay. And I landed there at 22 years old in the claims department, which I will still contend to this day. It doesn't happen as much in our business as it used to. But if you want to learn insurance, if you start in the claims department, you learn everything. And that was a very fast growing company around the Southeast, and then expanded really all over the South and Northeast in the 10 years that I was there. Over time, I ended up being the chief quality officer and in the C-suite of that organization. But the unique skill set that I ended up with there was that they bought a lot of agents in a very short period of time, and they were not necessarily equipped, nor did they care to necessarily have every agency immediately pull into the same model. So my job was to go and work with all these agents that we bought and acclimate them to our company, but not necessarily force them into like a corporate box. So I got a lot of experience working with different agents. And that sounds kind of odd because it was one company, but I really did work with probably 30 different agents on a regular basis. So when I left that company, I started a consulting firm and worked with an operational consulting firm and worked with a lot of the agents that I had worked with in that company that we all kind of dispersed at the same time. The company sold to a very large bank. And so I started consulting with a lot of agents around Georgia and the Southeast, and several of them were members of an agency group. And over time, I got involved in a couple of different agency groups as a consultant, and then eventually was asked to lead a couple of them. And so I worked with a large agency group here in Georgia for close to 14 years. And that group ended up actually merging into Secure Risk. So I left that group and went to go work with Secure Risk as the COO, obviously an agency group here in Georgia, founded in Georgia. We have locations all over the country. And then shortly thereafter, all of the members from my prior agency group joined Secure Risk, which was a great bonus for me because it was a great group of agents that I had worked with for years. And so now they're all part of the Secure Risk family. So that's kind of how I got here. Obviously, an operations background, but also that background of working with individual agents that are independently owned, but that are part of a group. And so that's kind of my foundation.
Awesome. So there's a common thread there, which I noticed is you were constantly moving up in all of this, right? Like someone who starts in a claims department and then shortly thereafter is the chief quality officer at a pretty large agency, and then a consulting company that then works with, groups and aggregators that then ends up becoming the COO of one of those, but has never actually run or owned an insurance agency. How did you get that operational prowess and that almost like that experience without actually running an agency that people thought was valuable? Where did that come from?
Well, I will always credit a really great mentor that I had who was the COO of that regional firm that I was with. And the thing when he started at our company, he was new. He came from another large broker, and when he came, and he kind of inherited me, and we sat down and we talked, and he told me something that has stuck with me through my career, and I talk about this with all of not only the people that work for me, but even within agencies. I'm working very closely with an emerging leaders group within Secure Risk, and these are emerging leaders that are coming out of agencies that are going to end up being the future leaders of their agencies. And when people ask me, kind of what I learned in my career that has served me the best, he told me that my job was to manage up. And I think I inherently might have had that skill set, but didn't know what it meant. And then once he kind of defined it and explained it to me, it became the way that I built my career. And that, if you think about that from the perspective of being a consultant, it's kind of the way that you work with your clients, is that you're going into an organization and you work for them, but your job is to manage up. So your job is to actually tell the person who you work for, you give them advice of how to do their job. You give them advice of how to be better at their job. You help manage them,
Mhm.
which is a very odd concept if you think about it, because you think the person that you work for manages you. But I think a really valuable employee manages the person they work for, and in the way that they continuously support them, deliver what they need, but also lead your manager to give you what you need and to help them give whoever they work for what they need. And so that's what I now ask of the people that work for me. I would like you to come and tell me what the next step is. I would like you to come and tell me what you need from me, as opposed to it being the other way around. And when you're a consultant, that's very important, because you really essentially have to go in and help an agency owner manage his agency, but you're not, to your point, you're not an owner in that agency. You're not even an employee of that agency, but you're essentially helping them do that. And then within Secure Risk, our goal is to support agencies in any way that we can. And so we hopefully can offer the same resources at the level of Secure Risk that I did in a consulting perspective.
Awesome. Yeah, that's what I was wondering is now that you're working as the COO of Secure Risk, I'm sure you're passing along those tactics to your members, right? You're kind of helping them coach up to their employees and their teams, or helping their teams coach up to them. Is that conversations that you have consistently with them, or is it only when they come and ask you, like, hey, what's going on?
It would probably be a combo. I mean, I think I've got relationships with these agency owners, long-term relationships with a lot of them. And so a lot of them do come to me for advice, or they'll come to me with a problem or a question. And so my job is to bring them a solution. And, it's either going to hopefully be something that I already know, or my job is to go out and find the solution for them. And so that, to me, is what we bring to the table. And then I think there are times where I might recognize that an agent might, especially an agency owner, might need some help or some guidance, and I will certainly offer that. And if they take me up on it, great. These are independent agents. They own their shops, they own their businesses, they have 100% control of their businesses. To be a member of Secure Risk, it does not mean we have in any way, shape, or form control of their agency. We are here as a resource. They are members of our organization. Our organization is very unique because every one of our agents that's a member of Secure Risk owns Secure Risk, equal ownership. So our largest agent and our smallest agent have the same amount of ownership in our organization. We work at their direction 100%. So, at the end of the day, we are here to offer resources. We're here to bring them what they need. We hope that we're able to deliver, but, they can choose to accept those resources or not. And
What
so,
do you
you can't
feel?
be pushy, but you hope that they want the solutions and the resources we're bringing.
Yeah, and I'm sure the better resources you bring, the more they want them, right? What do
Yes.
you feel are the most valuable things that Secure Risk brings to the table for a member?
Well, there's the obvious, and you can't talk about an agency group or aggregator or whatever anybody wants to say without explaining or without acknowledging the reason we're together. We're together initially for increased compensation and expense reduction. That's the nature of the game. That's what everybody ultimately expects. But in my opinion, that is literally what you should expect. That's the bare minimum. And if that's all you're getting from an agency group, then, I think at the end of the day, you probably need to look and see if there's other alternatives for your agency, because every agency group offers that. And if they don't, then I'm not sure, there are, and to be fair, there are alliances out there that offer different things to agents that intentionally don't offer, increased compensation and aggregation of contracts, but they're in a different category or group than we are. So that's like a given. And if you lead off, in my opinion, to any agent that's what you offer, that's just so basic. And that's a given. I personally, from doing this is the third agency group that I've been a part of. And what I find to be what I would say most agents find the most beneficial, and what they tell us time and time again, is the knowledge sharing and the relationships that they build with each other. They're all independent agents. They're all out there trying to do the same thing. In some cases, they're even competing with each other, but they form relationships in a way that they're continuously able to share information, ideas, knowledge with each other. And our job is to facilitate them being able to do that, and in a way that nobody feels threatened, that people feel like it truly is an organization that you're proud to be part of and that you get something out of beyond just the tangibles. Because it's really easy for all of us to say, we bring resources. We do. Based on what our members want, we go out and we partner with the best and to find great resources. That could be a vendor, that could be a technology vendor, that could be a training vendor, that could be, very specific insurance needs in the cyberspace or the loss control space or claims management space. So we're continuously bringing those types of resources to our members. Our model is that we try to go out and find the best and bring them to our members. We're not trying to build our business is that we're an agency group. That's what we do. We're not a social media marketing firm. We're not a loss control firm. We're not a claims management firm. We're not a sales leadership firm. So rather than us go out and bring those people into our organization, hire them, and then offer them to our agents, we try to go out and find the best in the business and bring them to our agents. We feel like that's a better use of our resources and our agents' time and resource. Because remember, our agents own us. So, how we use their dollars is very important. So that's, to me, the tangible resources are critical, but they're really at the direction of the agent. And if there are a lot of times where a great idea might come by or something that I think is a great idea. And if our agents don't want that, or if they're not as excited about it as I am, I have to sometimes step back and say, just because the marketplace is offering something doesn't always mean that it's what our agents want at this time. And so I've learned that I've pushed a lot of rocks up a hill in my day. And I've learned that you really have to make sure that everybody in your organization is behind you pushing that rock. And if they're not, you've wasted your time and possibly theirs, and, ultimately their resources and their financial resources.
There's a great quote by Yogi Berra, who's the old catcher for the New York Yankees from the 40s maybe. He said, you can learn a lot just by watching. And I think in your case, by listening to your agents, you're learning exactly what they need. And we work with a bunch of different groups, and there's very few of them that truly have the agent's best interest in mind and say no to things that would potentially either, help them profit or make them look better because it's a logo, but it might just be a useless logo that they're partnered with. And the best ones that we do work with, I think, are the ones that do exactly what you're talking about. And that's hear what the agents are saying, but then also go out and take the time to vet certain partners, certain programs, etc., before they're rolled out. Because the last thing you want to do is recommend something to one of your members, and that thing ends up being useless or unused or whatever it might be.
Yeah, and oftentimes it's not that it's useless. It's just that either the resource or technology is just not really at the forefront of the agency owner's mind yet. We're a very diverse group. We have, of our membership, we have about a third of our agents are below 2 million in revenue. Well, not a third, I'd say a fourth. 2/4 are between 10 and 2 and 10 million in revenue, and the other are over 10 million. So you can see there's a big disparity between resources that agencies need. So oftentimes we may pursue something that is really a good fit for a large agency. But when we look at it in the perspective of whether or not it's a resource that we need to spend secure risk time and dollars on, we may come to the conclusion that it doesn't serve the mass membership. And so that's something that we hope our members that need it will use it, but it's not particularly something that we are going to invest a lot of time and money in because it doesn't serve the masses. There is occasion where we find something that we feel strongly is something our agents need, whether they know it or not. And there are times where we push something very strongly because we know it's in their best interest. And we hope that our education, our facilitation, bringing the resource to them, explaining why it's a good resource for them, explaining what value it brings to them, we hope it gets traction and that ultimately they adopt it. And that works a lot. And sometimes it doesn't. And sometimes you have to learn that lesson. I always tell people, your dishwasher's got 1,000 settings and a lot of people just press start.
Yep.
And that's okay because it still cleans your dishes. But you could also do 5 other things that might do a little bit different than just pressing start. Some people want start and some people want 5 features on their dishwasher. And that's why the dishwasher comes with both options, right? So we're here to offer start and the basics, but we're also here to bring anything and everything we hope that our agents want. We hope that we will be able to offer a solution as we go on. But once again, only because we bring resources. We are not the solution to all problems.
Right.
We are an agency group that is here to, hopefully facilitate growth and profitability in agencies, which obviously translates to their own growth and profitability, which is what all agents, I think, have a goal of. And then we're here to support them in those aspects of how do you grow? How do you become profitable? You do that through things like sales leadership. You do that through things like maximizing technology. You do that through expense reduction. You do that through training your people. You do that through good hiring. So those are all resources that we want to bring to the table, but we're not necessarily going to be the ones on the ground doing it. We're going to bring the best in those fields to our agents.
Awesome. It sounds a lot more like what the relationship of a CEO group is than a traditional aggregator. We had a client on the podcast 2 weeks ago he loves CEO groups. He has, he started one, he joined another one, and they kind of have a coach. And the way that they interact sounds a lot like the way that your agents interact, which is very direct. You can build relationships. And like you said, sometimes it's with a competitor, but his mindset was there's enough to go around and you can trade advice, you can trade insights, experiences. And at the end of the day, you partner with this to help you learn things that you don't necessarily know or get better at things that, you're not specialized in. And that's interesting from what I picked up from what you said.
I remember one of our members years ago, he said that we were in a room with, 10 or 12, maybe 14 or 15 agency owners. And he said, y'all are like my board of directors.
Yeah.
And so, that concept of you're not involved in my organization, but you're adjacent in a way that I can come to you for advice and counsel. And because I know that you know what I'm doing and you've either been there or you're going in the same direction I'm going in, I know that I can come to you with my questions and concerns and either we figure it out together or you're hopefully going to give me some insight that I don't already have. But that's how we hope our agents interact. And listen, we've got 55 agency members, much larger in the big picture, lots of locations, but 55 actual agency owners and our agencies that own Secure Risk. And not all of them are each other's board of directors. You're going to come in a group like this, you're going to find those people that think like you, that manage like you, that have the same long-term goals as you, and you're probably going to end up gravitating to those people. And that's hopefully what you'll find in Secure Risk. I know there's some of our members that have kind of formed like a, for lack of a better term, kind of like a council, and they all get together and just share ideas. And it's just because they're Secure Risk members, and it's nothing facilitated by us. They started it on their own, but it's great that they do that, because they probably wouldn't have been able to do that if they hadn't met each other through Secure Risk. What is interesting about Secure Risk, and I think actually if you look at the history of a lot of agency groups, this would be a common theme in a lot of states. A lot of these groups were formed, including Secure Risk and Georgia Agency Partners, the company, the former group I was with. They were formed out of young agents. So you had these young agents that were part of the Big I in Georgia has a very strong young agents program. That's agents that are under 40 years old. And they all met when they were starting their career. And both of those groups were formed at the same time by young agents. And so now I see that same contingent of young agents in Georgia now that are doing the same thing. And they're not they're in Secure Risk, but they're meeting and they're collaborating. And so it's just kind of an interesting idea that I've seen here and that I see in other states. And I hope that means that we have longevity, because we have a continuous pipeline of leaders in our organization around our agencies that are going to continue to grow their agents and Secure Risk.
Awesome. How do you facilitate the connections for a new member? If someone comes on, obviously you have your conference and your annual meetups and whatnot, but are there other ways that you kind of introduce them to these groups and these members?
Yes. Well, our meetings are probably the biggest way, because we are such a large group. There's a practicality factor to it. And so we meet twice a year, and we don't have a requirement, but it's so strongly encouraged, and we really don't have an issue with participation. I mean, our agents show up, and for a couple of reasons. First of all, it's an opportunity for them to share information with each other. One day of our conference is members only. And so that content is geared just towards them. And there is always a format during our members only portion of our meeting that is interaction with our members. We call it a town hall, and we do that at every meeting. And so that's obviously their place to share business knowledge, but we have a lot of social opportunities during our meetings for networking. It's also our opportunity for our partners, in our carrier partners, our broker partners, our vendor partners, to be able to meet with our members exclusively. We're not a trade show. So if you're not a partner with Secure Risk, you don't get invited to our meeting. You won't see it's not like a Big I meeting, not that there's anything wrong with that, but a Big I meeting, anybody who wants to come can come. But at our meeting, it's only if you partner with. And so it's an opportunity for our agents, owners, and our partners to get face-to-face time, to network socially, but also in a business setting. And so that's really probably the strongest foundation of how our members get to know each other. But we have a lot of other opportunities. Our organization is run by a board of 12 agency owners, 4-year terms. And those board members are made up of the same demographics of our agency ownership. So you'll find small agents, large agents, mid-size agents on our board. And our board also operates on what I call operating committee structure. So we have operating committees that a board member chairs a committee, and then that committee is made up of 4 other agents owners, and they meet quarterly. And so, for instance, we have a finance committee, we have a governance committee, we have a vendor and technology committee, we have a carrier and broker committee. And so that gives the opportunity for we're probably up to close to 8 operating committees at this point. So that's 35 agency owners that are serving on a committee. And so on a quarterly basis, they're meeting to talk about whatever the board has charged them to, review and develop. And so that gives them an opportunity to get to know people within the organization. So we try very hard to facilitate that. We also have with actually 3 meetings a year. One of our meetings is geared towards support staff. So it's not our annual and our mid-year meeting are owner meetings. And typically those are owners of the agencies and leadership in the agency. But in the spring, we get together account managers, marketing folks, and our carrier, broker, and vendor partners. And it gives an opportunity for people in other positions in the agency to come together within Secure Risk and share information. It's interesting that I find that group to actually share more information in some ways in a very shorter period of time. They only meet for a day. And
Mm.
what I see the collaboration out of that meeting is tremendous, because they're just, there's no egos. They're just dying to hear how somebody else does it, how somebody else has solved a problem. And it's very interesting to watch that dynamic, because they really do share a lot of information with each other. And so it's exciting to see that. And right now we only do that once a year, but I think we could probably even expand that over time. And then the other opportunity that we have that we started this year, which is really fun to watch, is this Emerging Leaders Program. So we have 17 folks that have been tapped by their agency principal as an emerging leader, which means that they either have ownership in their agency or they're primed to attain ownership, and that they've been either identified as in a current position of leadership or as somebody that's going to move into a position of leadership. And they meet once a month with a great facilitator. We've partnered with a firm called Insight, and they are delivering the leadership program. And it's a 2-year program that these 17 people will meet once a month, come together twice a year in person. And I really think that's going to be exciting to watch those relationships grow and be the future of secure risk.
Awesome. That's a pretty sweet program. So you're almost helping conjure up the next level of board members and whatnot, that obviously they can't be board members yet because they're not the agency owners, but in an ideal world they will be in 5
Yes,
years or
yes,
8 years.
yes. And it, I know this from being an operational consultant for many years with agencies. Most agency owners were the top producers in their agency, and that's how they ended up being the agency owner.
Right.
And as we all know, just because you're the best widget maker doesn't always mean that you're the best widget manager, right? And so a lot of our agency owners just had to learn these skills on the fly. And I think a lot of them would admit to you, those of them that are my age or older, I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't have a roadmap. I didn't have anybody to help. I just had to either do it the way the guy before me did it or trial and error. And, a lot of them would admit what skill sets they're good at and what they're not, and even over time, they may have never mastered some management skills, and they will probably tell you that. And so having a way to train and educate future leaders is so critical, because our business it's not flashy. As my dad told me years ago, why would you go into this business? It is not something that college, I don't think a ton of kids in high school and college say, I'm going to be an insurance agent. But
Nope.
it is a tremendous career, and most people will tell you, if you get to the point where you talk to an insurance agent and really ask them the right questions, you will find out what a tremendous career opportunity it is. And so we as an industry have to do a better job of attracting young people to our industry and showing them a good career path. And so this hopefully also will accomplish that, because I want young people to see why they would want to join this industry and what they could possibly do in this business. Because when you said, how did I get from claims to this role? It was just by dumb luck and being in the right place at the right time, and hopefully working hard enough to where I gave people what I thought they wanted. But a lot of us did just figure it out. We just did. And I don't know that it's always fair to assume that that's how people should have to build their career. I
Right.
think that there is a inherent part of everyone that you do have to be able to do it on your own. You have to be able to figure it out, because frankly, that's what's going to make me take notice of you. That's going to be what an agency owner is going to take notice. That's what your professors take notice of in college. But I just don't think that the world that we live in anymore supports the concept that everybody's supposed to pull themselves up from their bootstraps and just do it on their own. And I think that in the competitive place where we are now, that if you don't offer training and education and career paths to young people, we're going to be a dying industry if we don't do a better job.
For sure. I think in the world of business now, because of YouTube and the way that Instagram works and all of this, there's so many resources. You can get access to some of the best businessmen and women out there that go on and they give tips. They give, whether you're trying to acquire businesses or start businesses or to get better at marketing or sales, there's a resource for you. So there is some level of the effort where you have to go out there, consume the content, and then go try it. But in the world of insurance, there's very few people who are putting those types of resources and that information out there and kind of like coaching along the way. And I met this kid out in California, and he started an agency when he was 23 or 24, something like that. And he's like, I started a YouTube channel, and the only thing I knew was how to make content on me making the agency, not knowing how to make the agency. Now he has over 10,000 people subscribed to his YouTube channel. And all he did was basically make videos on him struggling through making an insurance agency. And then other people who wanted to start agencies are like, oh my God, there's no one out here doing this. In other industries have that. But in insurance, like you said, it's very rare to have that hand holding along the way.
Yeah, I mean, our industry is notorious for, if you meet people that are my generation in their 50s and 60s, they'll tell you a lot of them started in the insurance company side and they learned the business, and then they came to their local agent in, there's the town that they settled in. So, but carriers have always, and brokers have always had extremely in-depth training programs. Back when I graduated from college, if I had gone into a carrier, I would have probably been put into a 3-month training program at the least. I would have probably gone somewhere back then. You would go somewhere in like Timbuktu for like 4 weeks with people that were your age, that were all starting out, and you would all go to the same stay in a crappy hotel and go to the same training program every day. And then you'd all disperse across the country in various branches of a carrier. That was how people were trained. But carriers have always really invested in that, and they've always done a better job of that. And then it was very typical that then people would move into the agency world, and the agencies just took it for granted. Okay, well, they've been trained, they understand insurance, we don't have to do anything, now they can just go sell insurance. And that really did work for a long time, but that carrier model has changed a lot because the carriers don't want to train people that are going to leave either. So they kind of figured out how to get more specialized in what they do, as opposed to just training people to leave their companies. They still do a much better job of training than we do, and they do a much better job of career paths than we do. When you go into an insurance carrier, you typically know what your career path can be. You know the options, you know the portals, or the kind of the funnels you can go into. And so, a lot of times they get the better internships, they get the better new hires. The larger agencies and brokers in the country are also have gotten smart, and they do a good job of this as well. And so they're out there getting the best candidates for internships and new hires. And the main insurance agent in a medium-sized town in the Southeast is probably not necessarily going to be at the top of a really strong candidates list, because the questions that new candidates ask are, what is my career path? What does your training program look like? How long am I training? And when you don't have the answers to any of those questions, you are just not in the competition anymore. You put yourself out of the competition. So, as being such an incredible industry, and I've met so many people over the years, especially people that came out of the agency side, the carrier world, or who just fell into it. They'll say, I never knew anything about this. I never knew how successful you could be in the insurance agency side. I never knew what kind of people did this. I just, I thought insurance agencies were State Farm. No knock to State Farm, but, by the way, they clearly do a really good job of branding themselves, because that's what people think your local insurance agent is. A lot of people don't know what independent agents mean, and they don't really know who they are. They might see their sign when they ride down the street, and they don't even know what they do. So, at the end of the day, Secure Risk's goal is to help our agents grow, but also help our agents build longevity, perpetuation. And we've got to figure out as an industry how to continuously attract people. And really, as you said, the insurance agency world does not do a very good job of advertising. It's like a secret club that nobody wants anybody to know about. And I don't think it's intentional. I just think it goes back to that idea that usually agency owners are also the best producers. They're the guys out there selling the most insurance, handling the biggest accounts, being the expert in their community, and that's their focus. And the larger their agency gets, and the more successful and growth they get out of their agency, the more that it's easy not to focus on anything else, because what you're doing has worked. I am selling insurance, and I am building my business, and it's bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And all of a sudden you wake up and go, okay, well, I did a really great job, but now I'm 60 And what the heck am I going to do now? Because now I spent all my time building my business, but I didn't spend any time supporting and growing the foundation of when I'm gone. And that's just, I'm sure there's lots of other industries that this exact same thing happens in. That's why mergers and acquisitions has just been huge in the last 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think the whole country or the whole workforce in general has probably done this to a degree. But I do think there's certain industries that have probably done a better job of building their base and their kind of, the people that are coming behind to be able to be poised to take over. And we just got to do a better job of it. And so anything Secure Risk can do to help our agents do that, we work on that. We constantly bring it to the forefront. We constantly try to educate at our meetings. You'll always see some kind of content that's sales related or development related, often tech related, to try to help our agents get the best resources within their agency.
Awesome. So that's a good transition, and also very cool that you help on that, because that is a topic that always gets brought up to me. And now I'm 33, but when I was 25 in the insurance industry, all of our clients were like, "Hey, do you have any friends who want to come work for us?" Because we were the youngest guys that they knew, that probably had the youngest network they knew. And now we're middle of the pack, but people still ask, like, how do we get younger people? And there's no one that has a great answer. I think what you're kind of describing is a great process. And that process is probably the answer. It's, you got to start, just like if you're trying to build a high school sports team, you got to start in youth sports, right? If you're trying to build a perpetuation program, you got to start with internships, or just having that flow of people into your company. And eventually it trickles down into the couple that end up in that leadership program, which is cool. So for our last topic to cover, let's talk about the 30th anniversary of Secure Risk and
Sure.
what that means. Yeah, I saw that you had an awesome event, and we got some pictures and we made a slideshow of it. But Andrew Jones was there, the former Braves player, who was like one of my
It was
favorite.
Brian Jordan.
Oh, I thought that wasn't Andrew Jones.
No, he played with Andrew Jones. He actually told us a funny Andrew Jones story. But no, it was Brian Jordan.
I even
And I don't know
Googled
if you
Andrew
know Brian
Jones.
Jordan. He played for both the Falcons and the Braves.
Oh, he's like a Deion
He was a
Sanders type.
utility player. Yeah, pretty cool
Yeah,
guy.
that's he looks just like Andrew Jones, because
I know. And like I said, they were on the same team together. So
awesome. Yeah, so tell us a little bit about what that means and the milestone that's coming up at the 30th
sure. So
anniversary.
obviously, 30th anniversary, 1995 is when Secure Risk started. Ray Williams was our founder, and he still works with us every day in a consulting capacity. He's a great guy. It was his vision. He started Secure Risk really more on market availability than really on the compensation piece. I mean, his idea was, he also met a bunch of guys and young agents, and they wanted to bring a group together to try to get some market appointments that they weren't able to get individually. They also needed a product, and I can't remember what it was. That was too expensive, frankly, for agents. And they said, hey, what if we bought it together and shared it? It was some kind of, resource that we needed. I think it had something to do with mods or something. But so he grew this organization very quickly. At one point, there were over 120 members. There's been a tremendous amount of consolidation in our organizations. Even though we only have 55 members now, it's ironic because we're larger in premium volume than we ever were. And literally on a daily basis, we consolidate the number of owners we have, but we don't necessarily lose the agencies, because we have a lot of internal perpetuation in our organization, meaning that a Secure Risk member buys another Secure Risk member, which is a really good testament, I think, to our membership and their relationships and how much people want to stay within this organization, because there's lots of people out there trying to buy agencies. There's lots of opportunities and there's lots of choices. So we've been very lucky that we have a very strong internal perpetuation with our agencies. So just because we're 55 members, and you may see one of our top competitors says, well, we have 300 agency members, we're still neck and neck in size, because it's just the way that it works. So we're really excited about our anniversary bash. We're inviting, we have 15 of our 55 agencies were founding agencies that are still there. There's actually more than that have been absorbed into other agencies, but 15 of them are still actual independent agents within our group. We've invited a lot of those original founders, the ones that are still with us. And we're, hoping that several of those guys, we know 3 or 4 will definitely show up. And we've got a lot of different things planned. We will be, obviously, our carriers are really excited. We're going to get our carriers involved in some kind of interactive types of activities. We're planning to do a time capsule. We're planning an interactive painting of our meeting, which is kind of unique. Our meeting setting is, if you ask anybody about Secure Risk meeting, they'll tell you we do things a little bit differently. We don't have a traditional trade show kind of booth set up. What we do is our meeting room where all of our general session is and our keynote speakers and all of that, all of our carrier partners and our agents are all together in the same room, and the carrier partners buy tables, and every one of their tables is set up with their logos and their swag. And then our agents during the general session sit with our partners. And it's a way for us just to facilitate more networking, more opportunities. And then during our meeting, we have a session that's just dedicated to networking where our agents walk around to all these tables and meet everybody. It's very, not just encouraged, pretty much required. You have to go to these tables. You have to meet them. They are here for us. And so we have a painter who's going to actually paint that room during the day while we're all there,
Awesome.
which I think is super cool. Something that people have seen before, but I've seen it in some venues, but I haven't really seen it in an office or a business setting. And then we're going to have a huge celebration bash the second night of our meeting that's going to end at this dueling piano bar here in Savannah. That's super fun. Just our group. We usually end up with about 275 to 300 people at our meetings. We're really excited to celebrate not only the founders, but everybody in the room who has made it what it is, our partners who are still with us and new partners that have joined us. We think it's a tremendous group. I'm very proud of it. I know Ray Williams is very proud of it, Brian Bandrowski, our CEO. And so we just want to celebrate it with everybody that we think has made us who we are, which is our members, but also our partners.
Awesome. That sounds like a blast. And
It'll be fun.
everyone loves a dueling piano bar.
Yes.
Yeah. I've been to a few for birthday parties and bachelor parties, and even with my mom and my brother.
I say it's something you want to do it like every 5 or 6 years. You don't want to do it like every weekend
Right.
because it's super, super fun. And then when you leave, you can say, I'll do that again. And then when you do it again, it's just as much fun. You don't want to do it all the time.
No, that's awesome. Well, that was about an hour of chatting. I feel like
Perfect.
the next thing that we should do is, since you have all this operational prowess and all this insight, we should almost make like a series with you of like just talking about a specific aspect of an agency, whether it's sales or training or whatever, and deep dive into that, because we covered very high level secure risk stuff, which was great. And I think it gets people an insight into what your group is. But as you were talking, one, you're really great on camera, which is incredible. And two, I think you have so much to share. And there's this thing like, not all the best players in sports end up being the best coaches. Sometimes the best coaches are, they played in high school, but then they really understood the game and they can coach it very well. And I feel like since you never owned an agency, you might be one of those people who never was a pro athlete coach, but you just know how to coach an agency. And I think that would be really valuable for whether it's your members or prospective members to hear from you on really deep dive some topics if you're open
Sure.
to it.
Yeah, I think that'd be a great idea. I could give you some topics and we could cover a few.
Yeah, it's not so scary being on camera, right?
No, it's not fun, but it's not so scary.
Okay, good.
It's
Great.
not my favorite.
So I'm gonna stop the recording and then we'll be
Okay,
offline. We can chat for a second before we
sure.
part ways. Okay.